Now, the brilliant Tommy Walsh, himself a former Kilkenny Minor hurling star, joins us on OTB AM this morning to highlight the major impact of the minor championships and to look ahead to this weekend's Electric Ireland Minor All-Ireland Hurling Championship final between Cork and Galway, which takes place at 7:30 on Saturday the 21st of August in Semple Stadium. This game will be live on TG Car. Coverage starts at 7 o'clock. Tommy, good morning to you. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Ger.
We're framing our coverage of the Cork hurlers this week as the red storm rising, and the minors have the chance to make it 2 national titles on Saturday before the seniors look for the treble. There's something special happening in underage hurling in Cork over the last decade that's beginning to bear fruits.
Yeah, there is, Ger. They won the first one of the Rebel treble there last night with a convincing win. And this is a great Galway team that has, some of these would have been on the minor winning team a couple of years ago. The Galway minors are going for 5 in a row, so I'm sure there's a good few of them guys were on the team last night. So this was no easy feat for that Cork team last night. I suppose the basis of that is the foundation. And a couple of years ago, they felt that they weren't putting in the work at underage, so they started Rebel Oak and they're putting in huge work. Like this minor team that's playing the Electric Minor All-Ireland on Saturday, Ger. They won the under-14 Tony's Forest, which is a prestigious tournament. They went on and won the under-15 A and B competition the following year. There was no under-16 tournament because of the pandemic. So this team has been coming. And if you look at the names that are being involved in the underage structures in Cork the last couple of years, you have Don Logue, Tom Kenny, Sean Oak, you have Wayne Sherlock, Niall McCarthy is involved in this team Saturday. So all the big names are getting back involved. And that's great for youngsters because youngsters will always look up to the lads that won All-Ireland medals and lads that were their heroes when they were that bit younger. So, yeah, listen, they're definitely after putting in the work. And I suppose the great thing for them is now when they're talking to the young lads in these, academies or in Rebel Oak, they can talk to them about the success they're now having. So this is 2 under-21s in a row. They're after being in 4 finals in a row. So listen, they're putting in the work, and when they get the rewards, then it's easy keeping it going long term.
Yeah, and this will eventually feed. There's no guarantee that underage success is an automatic conveyor belt to winning senior All-Irelands, but all of a sudden the panel swells, and if someone gets injured, there's strength in depth, and the style of play begins to become embedded, and people are arriving into the senior ranks fully ready to go because they've been on proper strength and conditioning programs. They've begun to think like inter-county players because they've been exposed to it from such an early age. So the red storm rising is actually pretty true, right?
Yeah, it is. Absolutely, because it gives you confidence. When you have confidence, then you're practicing more because you believe more. And it's a kind of a steamroll effect. You go back, say, you have minor, I would say minor, because it's gone back to under 17 now, Ger. It's more a developmental. So you're trying to, pick out players as opposed to winning All-Irelands isn't really a sign of future success. They're just too young because, they're still physically, they've still a lot to grow. There could be a young chap there, 16 years of age. He could be a much different person, at 19 or 20. It was different a few years ago when you had 18-year-olds playing. They were just, a year or two off being an adult. So I think minor at this stage, it's not as much to do with winning All-Irelands, but it's to do with developing players and players that you're giving them the right habits, you're giving them the right, exercise and strength and conditioning programs and lifestyles that you think, listen, there is potential there and they can achieve, in years to come. But I would see the under-20 grade as definitely a great signpost for future success for the senior team. You only have to look at the teams in the last few years that are winning or near the top table. They've all won under-21 All-Irelands, and that's going back decades. The last time Cork won an All-Ireland under-21 before this year was 97 and 98. That was the great, Don Logues and Sean Oakes and these lads. And they went on, won 3 All-Irelands with the Cork senior team. So I definitely think that it's a great sign. Even the Limerick team that's playing Sunday, a couple of them have 2 under-21 All-Irelands.
The tip team that stopped your 5 in a row had a bunch of under-21s on it as well that just got them over the line, and was that infusion of youth that they needed to match you guys as well. Am I right in saying that you didn't win a minor All-Ireland? Is that correct?
Yeah, no, I played 2 years minor, and first year we awfully beat us. First Kenny team to get beat in 10 years. So you can imagine what people are saying about our team. Back then we had very good players like Jackie Turrell would have been on that one, JJ Delaney would have been on it, David Hershey, Kanasicki. Like, you know,
and what happened
no
to those
poor
guys?
team.
I never heard much of them afterwards.
So, yeah, the minor team the following year, we had a very good team again. Nicky Cashley, a great Watford man. He was a school teacher in St. Kieran's College, was over. His brother Brennan, the guy you would have heard so much about, he would have been on that. Joe Dunphy, a great man from Munkind. So there was a lot of good lads managing that team, and few school teachers who knew how to kind of balance doing the leave insert and, you know, playing for All Irelands. And we got to the All Ireland semi-final. We had a great year. We're just very disappointed to get beaten, but the last time Cork won a minor All Ireland was 2001, and that was the team that beat us in the semi-final. You had Setanto Halbeen on that one. John Gardner was on it. The two Kieran Murphys, Fraggy and Big Kieran from Erin's Own. Tomas O'Leary, who went on to play for Munster. He was in that team. Very, very good. Martin Coleman would have been on goal. So yeah, listen, it was a very good Cork team, and you see what them guys did, you know, in their sporting career. So listen, it is definitely a huge help to be doing well underage.
It's All Ireland final week, Tommy. What are you thinking about when you're thinking about the actual occasion itself? Before we get into the match, because we've talked over the years about the importance of the occasion. It's obviously a match that centrally involves the two teams, but just even there in the video that we showed, there was a Limerick hurling fan who has his All-Ireland final routine, and he said, for years we've been going up to the final as neutrals, and now it's our turn and we need to enjoy it. And I know sometimes there's criticism that there are tickets given to neutrals, but I'm not sure that everybody who understands the fact that the tickets go to the neutrals, because this is their life. Hurling is their lifestyle. It's what they do. They train kids, they coach teams, They go to matches, they make sandwiches, they line pitches all year round, and just because their team isn't involved in the All-Ireland final day, it doesn't mean that day is not for them as well.
Yeah, and there was an interview during the week with Dan Morrissey, and he was saying the first All-Ireland he was at, he was 6 years of age, and he's been going to All-Irelands ever since. So like that just shows you, like, here's a guy in neutral. Limerick, you know, the first All-Ireland probably Limerick were in was probably 2007, that he was able to attend as a, you know, his own county in it. And you see now Dan Morrissey, Tom Morrissey, they're playing the All-Ireland final. Like my own grandfather used to say in Olin Park when they're trying to get the kids off the field, you know, during half time. And he'd say, no, he said, leave them gates open for the 10 or 15 minutes, because them guys in 10 or 15 years time will be hopefully playing out there. And this is what allows, you know, a young lad going to a match, he doesn't necessarily want to watch the match. You know, he's probably too young. But if he's told he can go out at half-time and poke around, suddenly it's one of the best days of the week going to this senior match, you know. And neutrals, and you can understand what people are saying. It's just when you actually maybe tell them the whole story, or get them to meet the guys from maybe the weaker counties who are absolutely obsessed with hurling, but will, you know, their county will never be in a senior All-Ireland. Then I think people will realise that, hold on a minute, this is not just for the counties to get to All-Ireland, this is for the whole country. Like, there's people down in Kerry, there's people in Wicklow. Like, I was doing a training session up in Wicklow a few weeks ago, and obsessed with hurling, some of them guys, and loved it. So you'd have to give these guys, if they want to go to an All-Ireland, the chance of getting a ticket. So you're dead right there, Ger. Hurling was never for a couple of teams. It was for the whole country. People, you know, were the island of the 1,000 welcomes, and that's the way it should be going forward.
What are you thinking about when you're trying to make the case for Cork to beat Limerick this weekend? How do they do it?
Yeah, I think they're the team that's best equipped to beat them. They have troubled them in the last couple of years. They're probably one team that's troubled them the most. And this year they've an extra tool in their box, and that's they're starting to tackle up front. Like the last 2 years, they were brilliant on the ball, but I could never remember, you know, after the match when you're thinking back, this guy got in a tackle, I remember this possession. They're now starting to put in that ball, put in that work rate. And work rate is when you get there, you still have to get in the hook and block. We saw Mark Coleman in the semi-final against Kilkenny, came back and stopped 2 or 3 or 4 goal chances for Kilkenny. That's players working for each other. See Dennis Welsh, Ben O'Connor, all talking about in the last couple of weeks that this Cork team, they need to play as a team, and they have been doing that this year. It's been the reason I think they're back in an All-Ireland. But for them to beat Limerick, I think they have to play to their own strengths. So there's no point in taking them on physically. This Limerick team is just too big. Look at their half back line and their half forward line, all probably 6'2" plus, bar maybe Keane Lynch, who is built like a tank anyway, but they're all just huge, naturally, physically huge men. So taking them on at that game, why would you do it? You think of your own strengths. Go back to Mick O'Dwyer with Kerry. always, Pat Spillane, you'd often hear him saying, Mick O'Dwyer never spoke about the opposition. It was all about how good we are and what we're going to do to the opposition. So that's what Cork need to do. They did it to Kilkenny in the semi-final. They need to do it again in this match. Get the ball and take on these guys and kind of, try and create space. But the one worry I would have for him is that if they leave Limerick with spare defenders, I think everyone is leaving Limerick with a spare defender the last couple of years, kind of mirroring the way they play. And they're just too good with possession to do that, Ger. They don't panic with the ball. They're so strong, they're able to break tackles, 2-3 tackles at a time. So I'd love to see Cork going 6 guys up front and, go for a goal then if the chance is on. And they've scored, I think, 25 or 26 goals in league and championship this year. So they have been doing it. They have the speed to do it. And I said before last year's All-Ireland year that Waterford would have to try and get goals, but I felt there were certain times where they forced it. And there is a difference. You go for the goal if there's a goal chance on, but you don't force it. You don't go for goals from 20, 25 yards out. Nicky Quaid will be too good. It's just maybe if you are gone past your defender, stay going another 3 or 4 yards, like Seamus Harney did against Clare. Then when the defender comes to you, lay it off and go for the goal. Sometimes you might have to go for 3 or 4 goal chances to get one, Ger. But if the opportunity is there, go for it.
There's been a streakiness about Cork within games that they won't really be able to survive against Limerick. Is that streakiness just the natural part of a team growing into itself and beginning to fully understand its game plan and getting confidence as a championship wears on? Or is it something more serious than that?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. If you go back to the Munster semi-final, there was a draw match, 7 to 10 points, coming up 35 minutes gone. And within that 2 minutes, Limerick just got 2 goals. I think it was 2 goals and a point. But it's the game has just gone so fast. Go back through all the matches. Say in the semi-final, Kilkenny were up probably 6-2 or 6-1. They were up 19-15. Cork came back, got their lead. Then Kilkenny came back again. Go to the Munster final when Limerick played Tipperary. Tipperary, huge lead. Limerick came back. Go to any of the games. There's no lead safe anymore because there's so many scores here. I think we're still thinking back in the day when, a 6-point lead is, right, see this game out. But that was when the score was maybe 2-11 to 1-10. The end score, 1-11 to 1-14. Now the score lines at the end of games is 2-28 to 2-26.
Yeah.
So there's still just huge hurling to be played. A 6-point lead isn't a 6-point lead that we remember. Look at the under-21 All-Ireland last year, last night, Cork were up by 10 or 11 points. Suddenly it was brought back to 3. It's just the sheer amount of scores now, Ger, leads to these swings. I
was just thinking the Cork-Kilkenny final in 99 finished 13-12. I don't think you see a score these any more like that.
Yeah, so a 6-point lead in that, is so different than nowadays when it's 30. Offaly scored 41 points in there. Christy Ring Cup final, so that's just how the game has changed.
Tommy, I had James Scahill on during the week, and he is of the view that hurling has evolved, and so we had a debate about what would happen if your team had come up against the current Limerick team. And I mean, obviously I'm not saying you guys today in the current state of age that you are against the Limerick side now, but if peak Kilkenny from your era had come up against this Limerick side, what would the outcome have been?
We would have nailed them. We'd have been waiting all winter, all summer for that day. Then we would have nailed them.
How?
We were come back. We had a challenge match against Rowan Moore there last night below in Muncain, and we were coming back, myself and Martin, my brother. He asked me that question, and I was just saying, we were able to play zonal defence a lot, but then we had to change when the Tipperary came along because they were so good at giving the ball and movement, and we had to start man marking. So I reckon we would have had to man mark the half forward line. It would have been a savage battle because we were so physical. When guys tried to take us on physically, our big guys love that. So Tipperary and Galway kind of started changing that with movement, and that's when it started to get, they were making you uncomfortable then because they run you around Croke Park with good movement. So this Limerick team, they're hugely physical, but they're good on the ball. So when they get the ball out, we could allow the half-forward lines go out to, defend, and we wouldn't have to worry about them until they came back. But with this team, they'll get the ball, come forward and put it over the bar. So I reckon we would have had to pick a few lads to man mark him. Like I probably would have put JJ on Tom Morrissey, I put Jackie on Gerard Hegarty, leave Brian Hogan in the centre on Keane Lynch, and hopefully the midfielders, Char Fitzpatrick, Michael Rice, maybe the Las Lingers would pick up that space as such there. So you would have had homework to do, but thinking about, you know, I didn't think as much about it there last night, but thinking about it on the spot, that's what I would do anyway.
Yeah.
So follow the half. I would follow the half forward line as far, just follow him everywhere really. And the ball going into Gillette, Seamus Flanagan then and Peter Casey, probably a lot of ball go in, but wouldn't be good ball. So I trust McCavan or Paul Murphy or whoever be, you know, Noel Hickey or whoever's in the corner. I could be back there, I suppose, if the boys are gone out man marking. So you trust them guys then when the ball will come in, that it'd be a 50-50 ball because the lads would have them under such pressure out the field.
The other thing is that your forwards would then also be able to thrive if that game became a game of dirty ball.
Yeah, it would. Well, you would definitely have the option of driving it in, you know, long. But I would definitely have take on like that. I think them Limerick defenders, like you say, Barry Nash. He's a former forward for most of his career. He's cornerback. You've Dan Morrissey playing fullback, more comfortable out on the wing. Sean Finn he's one of the top cornerbacks probably that play of any era. But guys that are not used to playing inside, what they don't want is one-on-one and space. So what I would be doing is, you said, our lads be able to win their own ball. I'd be bringing out the half forward line, and I'd be trying to keep 6 forwards up front here and try and get them into individual battles, and hopefully you'd win it there, because at the moment they're playing like every battling loves playing as a team. So Dan Morrissey goes out after a ball, he can maybe just shield his man because he's a spare lad there, sweeping and that. So he's never on his own really. They're defending as a team, so I'd be trying to get him into uncomfortable situations where there would be one-on-one.
I'm just looking at the football at the weekend, and the sheer naked pace of Mayo in the second half, it became more evident and more pronounced when they went totally man-on-man. In the first half, Tommy was saying that there was like an extra defender, that Mayo were protecting their D and trying not to concede goals. And it seems like if you're up against a physically very strong team like Limerick, sheer naked pace is the one thing that you have that is you can't beat it.
Yeah, and it's the one, like, when you're a young lad, like, it's the one thing you'd say about big guys, you know, if they don't have the ball, they can't do that. So bring them out into space and try and be out in front of your man. That's what you're also. Be in front of them. Don't get into a physical battle. And like, as in Mayo, it is high risk, but there is a big reward. And the way I look at it is not even really high risk as such, because Limerick have proven for the last couple of years, when you do give them, you know, the ability to work together with the spare defender, they are beating you anyway, no matter how well. Like Waterford give Limerick as physical a test, I'd say, in the first 25, 30 minutes as any team has done. They gave it hell for leather, and it was outstanding to see. But looking back on hindsight is a great thing. It kind of played into Limerick's hands, because sure, they love that battle. They're so strong themselves. So I think if we learn from other teams, maybe mistakes, and say, listen, teams haven't been able to beat them playing at their own game, playing the Limerick game, which most, you know, everyone kind of copies the All-Ireland champions. But so a lot of teams trying to play that game at the moment, which is, you know, possession out and then balls into the corner forwards. But I think myself, if it's not really high risk, because they've shown that they're able to deal with every other situation. So why not try this one on them?
So you, I think it sounds like, are predicting Limerick to win a tight game, the tightest game that they've faced this year? Yeah,
like out of sheer respect for this Limerick team, everything they've done. Like they've just been exemplary since 2018. The semi-final, John Kiley got him into the circle. He asked the media, he asked the supporters to give them space to prepare for that All-Ireland final. They did that and they won it. But it seems to be their mantra ever since. They never get carried away. It's one game at a time. They've 3 Munsters in a row. They've, you know, gone for their 3rd All-Ireland in 4 years. So they deserve that respect. They've never really not shown up. Even in the match against Tipperary, the Munster final, I felt they were there, but I thought Tipperary just had their number on the day. And see the way they're able to turn that around in the second half, it was unbelievable, really. They did it in such a short space. So out of respect and the form that they're in, I would give it to them. But I think Cork, listen, as you said, like, Cork are coming, and the rest of the country beware. they have the confidence. They always have the confidence, but they definitely have extra confidence at the moment. And the win last night, if they're to win the minor against Saturday, like, there'll be no stopping them, you know.
Yeah, good stuff, Tommy. Great to have you with us. Enjoy the weekend. Thanks a million.
Yeah. Thanks a million, Ger.
Okay. Tommy Walsh giving us his thoughts ahead of the All-Ireland Minor and the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Finals this weekend. And of course the Electric Ireland Minor All-Ireland Hurling Championship Final between Cork and Galway takes place at 7:30 on Saturday the 21st of August in Semple Stadium.